Hello, my name is Vander Stoep, and I'm a soft pastel artist. And this week we're going to be celebrating my 1 year live streaming anniversary. I honestly can't believe it's been a year already. The community has been incredible. And as a thank you to give back to you all, I want to do a whole lesson live with you. And the piece that we're going to be doing is called The Tides of Transformation. I thought that name was really fitting. And this is the line art that I'm providing for the lesson. I like to provide line arts for all of my lessons so you can just dive in and paint and have a good time. So in the link below, there's going to be a download link that you can get your assets file. It'll talk about the colors we're going to be using and all of the supplies. And then you'll also get to print this out. And I share with you in the video how we transfer our image, how we get it all lined up and ready on our 8x10, and then how we support it with our carbon pencils. So we'll have that, and I explain what I do and how I use it, so and why. And so I hope you'll come and join me. This will be a lot of fun. If you missed the live, the replay will be available. And I also suggest that you might, when you come to the live, just watch the live through once and then go back and try to paint, because when I'm painting live, I have to paint a little faster. So I don't want you to feel left behind. So I'm giving you a little bit of a heads up with that. That can be a little bit challenging when I'm painting live. All my lessons are a little bit slower, plus you can pause and start when you want, and I think that makes a huge difference. So I just want to give you a heads up with that because I have done lives before, and that is the one thing I've noticed along the way. So download your free assets file. Come join me on Tuesday for this live celebration, and I look forward to seeing you there. So I'm going to get right into it about the supplies we're going to use for this lesson. And what I have here is the PDF line art that I've printed out. Now, in that line art file, you're going to have your value scale, couple, all the supplies for the lesson, and the line art I've set up on an 8.5 by 11. This is the original size that prints out, but we're going to be using an 8 by 10, and that's a little bit smaller. So it's about like this on the paper. And I didn't want, when I put a line around it, it crops that off. So I have a tip here that I want to show you of how I'm going to line that up on an 8 by 10. And what I did was I have a line up here, and then I have these lines down here, and I just lined it up for, where that touches right there and made it straight, and then cut this top part off, and then where all the lines are hitting right here, I cut that off. And then what we're going to be able to do is now take that trimmed version and we can put it on our 8 by 10 right into the corner. Now I create on where I use the whole surface. I don't tape over the edges. This is a sanded paper. I do something called reverse tape when I'm taping it up on my easel, or if I'm just using unmounted paper. I will use the reverse tape method, and that allows you to use, so if you're creating an 8 by 10, it's going to be an 8 by 10, or 9 by 12, it'll be 9 by 12. Now I always consider that there's going to be a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch that's going to be taken off for framing, and that is just part of the whole thing. So I would never put something into the edge like that, knowing that it'll be covered up by a mat or a frame. But that's kind of the rule that I go by. So now that I have this in the corner here, it's ready for me to line up when I'm ready to transfer it, and it'll be on the right position of the pastel paper. So with that said, the pastel paper, this is the star of the show. This is a UArt sanded dark pastel paper. It comes in multiple grades, and this is a 600. 600 works really well with my soft tools. Soft tools are basically the brushes that you use to apply PanPastel. It's made out of ultrafine density foam. They're made specifically to use with PanPastel, and it's definitely worth trying them out. They last quite a while. You can wash them, but normally I wear them out, and that's how they end up being done. So I've also mounted this paper onto a mat board. I have a video for that if you're interested. It just allows me to photograph my work really easily without the paper curling or worrying if I'm going to ruin the painting. It allows me to store the paintings really easily and ship them. And then they also can be framed a lot easier with using spacers. You don't even have to use a mat. and I have a video on all of that. So I'll put the link down below with all the videos that talk about taping up, about the mounting, and all of that good stuff. So we're going to get right into it here. What we're going to be doing is we're making our own transfer paper. Now, I love this because when I do drawings and stuff, I personally love drawing on tracing paper. I use a Strathmore tracing paper. I do a lot of my drawings, sketches, anything on here for ideas. And then I clean them up, and then you can put another layer over and clean them up. And it's just a great non-precious paper to work on, and it takes mechanical pencil really well, and that's what I love drawing in. So what I'm going to do here is the benefits. We're going to flip this over. It will make a fine transfer paper that way, and we're going to use this soft tool oval and this neutral gray PanPastel to create our own transfer paper. The benefits of doing this is that you're using the same medium that you're going to work in, and that can really be a benefit because I've used like the Saral or Saran or whatever it's called, like the wax-free transfer papers. Those don't work very well. This, it will leave like a halo and you can't get rid of it. And I've had a lot of fuss with that in the past. And any other different types of like carbon papers and that, it just doesn't work as well with the soft pastel. So this has been my go-to. So I have this oval sponge, and then I'm going to have my Wolf's Carbon pencil. This is what we're going to use to support the transfer after it's on there. I will talk more about this as we get in there. I have some tape to tape the paper down, and then my M&R eraser that I love to use to sharpen. I only do the larger one, so I have more control of how I want to sharpen my pencils, and it helps me not create waste. I've tried all the sharpeners. For me personally, this is my jam. So now I'm going to go in and just load up my soft tool sponge. It's going to create a lot of sediment in there. I'm fine with that. I'm going to just tap that on to the piece here, and then I'm going to just start gently rubbing in with circles. Now I can see the image through the paper pretty well. If you can't, you can just lift it up to the light a little bit and you'll be able to see it. And you know, PanPastel does not create a lot of dust at all. That is pretty much the magic about the medium. This it's not messy. I do work on an easel, and that helps any sediment just shed down into the tray of my easel. I did start out working flat, and then I would just get a like large box or paper bag, and I would tap my work into that bag. I do find standing at an easel is a lot easier for me, and it helps my back, and I can sit or stand in that and work on the easel. So I'm gonna just get this all covered here. I'm gonna get these edges because this is where all of the little green kelp and everything is bumped on this edge right here. So I'm trying not to get too much on the back side because it'll get on the front of the paper. But the cool thing is that this erases very easily, and so you can clean anything up. So if I have any spots that are lighter, I'm gonna just get a good coating on here because I do not want to have to do it again. And if I have any sediment left over, I'll just tap it off into my trash. I'm just looking to see where it's ending and beginning. Okay. Pushing down pretty good to get that into the paper. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap off any excess I have here into the trash. So now that I have all of that covered really well, I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to put this on the corner here of my pastel paper. And I'm just going to make sure that's lined up really well. And then once I have that lined up, I like to tape down the piece just so it doesn't move. And I want to be able to flip it up though a little bit to be able to check my transfer. So I can just take and sometimes it's nice just to have 2 points of connection with that, so you're not having a wobble. Like, you don't really want to wobble. So we're not going to use this till later. So I love using a ballpoint pen. You can use a mechanical pencil. I just want to have something that has a fine tip, and that's going to help just me see where I've drawn and transferred already. So there's a lot of, patience at this stage, because you're setting up for the whole piece. And so I find that, I'll put some music on, I'll, just listen to a book on I want to say on tape, that's funny, but, a book on line, Audible, whatever, listen to a book. And things like that for these stages, because they're really worth the time, because my style, the way I work, is I am building structure, and then during the whole painting I'm breaking that structure down, altering it a bit, and it gives me the confidence to make decisions. Now, I don't have everything always planned out when I do my paintings, so some of this structure can really be helpful in just giving me, the ideas. And then once I get in there, I usually will be focusing on light and color, and it allows me to focus on other things once I'm in there and starting on the painting. And you'll see that if you're going to come in and join on the lesson. So I'm going to go in here. I think that the kelp is going to be even more simplified when I do get it in there. I got a little carried away with drawing it. It was so much fun. But I will be sharing with you how we're going to just block this in, and it'll be a little bit more subtle, and we're going to use light and shadow to create interest in the piece. And we're going to test it out here, and you're going to see how good that transfer is. I mean, it's just a really wonderful transfer. And you can also check and see where you might have missed your lines. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about my I have a free lesson area on my website. And I'm actually currently updating one of the lessons to be like a really great beginner starter lesson that's going to go over some of the core foundations that you need to get started in using PanPastel and soft pastel. I say soft pastel because I use pastel pencils, and I use some sticks to add some details. I'm going to do a few, more stick pastel lessons this year. I just have a lot of great plans. But if you subscribe to my newsletter, you will get a link in your welcome newsletter that will give you the link to join and access the free lesson library that I have on there. I'm going to have this really beautiful mushroom lesson in there, and I'm going to have I have some of my black PanPastel lessons in there. I have a mixed media where I use watercolor and pastel together, and it's all on this UArt paper, so the paper really is the star, and it's what allows me to do a lot of the things that I do. But it's just a great option to get in there. I have a color mixing video in there that talks about how PanPastel is structured. I'm going to have a little bit of that in the mushroom video that I'm going to be doing. And yeah, so it's just a great opportunity to go in and get some more lessons and figure out if this is something you're interested in. And if you are interested in wanting to dive deeper, I have a membership called the Pastel Insider, and that membership is $19.99 a month. You get access to all of my core classes, all of my lessons, and then you get a weekly lesson through the Pastel Insider. And I give a peek of that lesson every Tuesday on my live stream. And that is a lot of fun. So you get to come into a community, talk with some other, pastel enthusiasts. And I would say that the thing I've loved the most about being on YouTube and live streaming is the community. It's one of the most positive communities I've, been a part of, and I'm really proud of it. So yeah, I hope you'll come by the live stream, and I have a whole bunch of replays of those lives. Have a lot of great content in there too. So yeah, I hope you will check it out. I have more information on my website, and there'll be links in your asset file that I've given you with this line art with the Pastel Insider information if you want to learn more about that. So I'm getting all of this greenery done first, calling it greenery, but it's kelp. And I just really love the kelp and got into it quite a bit. But I think it's going to really make this piece shine. I only have like 2 hours to paint this, so I will be painting probably a little faster than I normally would. I might be going over, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so we have everything transferred from our transfer paper onto the UART pastel paper. And at this section is where I have come up with my own thing for my creative process that I think is really invaluable to me. But I want to start off by saying it's really worth trying it out for a few paintings and seeing how you like it before, rushing it away and saying that's too much. But I do go over the rest of this with this pencil. I try to keep my pencil tip pretty sharp. I want thin lines. Now, the reason for this is because I'm working on a dark paper, which is like an underpainting. If you're working on an ivory paper, you're having to put in all those darks. Now, a lot of people on ivory paper or white paper will do an underpainting. So when those things peek through, they're okay and they don't feel like they have to cover up every single, peeking through color. So if the ivory's there, you're going to see that peeking through the whole painting. Now, my process works with the black. It embraces the black. I don't mind if black is peeking through. So what I do is I'm also going to be showing you how this works in the lesson, but I'm also working with the PanPastel system, which black is part of the whole system. So when you add black to any of the colors in the PanPastel families, they will go in from the core colors are the main colors in all of the families. Those are the ones that just say magenta or burnt sienna. I call them core colors. Those core colors, when you add black to them, will become the shade. So it'll be burnt sienna shade, and then when you add more black, they become extra dark. But not in most of those families, none of them really have where, they're dark enough all the way on their spectrum. And I work dark to light, which, most people in pastel work dark to light. So when I put this pencil in, it has more staying power, so I can bump up against these lines and it will actually create an extra dark in some of those areas. And then I can take that line and bury it, take it away when it comes into more of the highlights. Like up here, I'm knowing that it's highlighted more, I might not go as strong, but it just creates this stability of your painting that I think really allow my style to come through. So I hope you'll give it a go. If you work this way without supporting it, when you bump up against anything, it will literally, this does have some staying power here, you can see, but it will take away that really quickly. And I just feel like I could do the same thing with the pencil, and it'll stay longer. And it also works really well with the soft tools. So like I said, I'm using the M&R sharpener. I will tilt it so I can get an extra sharp in there. And then I can also use, like, I can just use this corner here and erase it later, but I can use the sanded paper to sharpen the pencil. So that's another thing I can do. And that really allows me a lot of, freedom in that. So I can leave this here and I can get rid of it later. Now the other tip I like to offer is that I use the white, the gray here, I call it white because it looks pretty white. But the transfer lines, I think of those as highlights. So I will go on the side that I think the highlight is going to be. So you can see right here. Let me see if I can zoom in real quick so you can see this. So I am going on this side of the highlight because I'm not going to shadow this in on this side. So I'm not going straight on the line. I will use that line and then that becomes a highlight because I know this, it's not always perfect. You're doing your best as you go. And I roll my pen around, my pencil, to get it on an edge that's sharper. So I'm constantly moving and rolling that pencil. And that'll keep you to be on a sharper line there. But I'm not going to be able to do that exactly everywhere. It's not perfect, but that is my intention when I'm doing this, is I'm trying to be on the side of that highlight. And I want to keep close to it. I want that to be as close as I can. So whenever I'm working on there, that's what I'm thinking about. It's not always going to be perfect, but it's definitely a goal. And then I can just get that eye in there, and I'm going around the pupil there. So I'm not going with a heavy line. I'm going in with a thin line, and that's all you really need for the support. So I'm going to get around here a little bit. So in the squares of the seahorse, those are shadowing in. So this is just something you learn over time, and so you can shadow in on those. And I'm just sharing this because it's something I'm starting to be able to really verbalize what I do. But if you shadowed out or in, it's not going to really matter detrimentally. I'm just starting to be able to voice that because I find that that can be helpful. And, in there, this little spot I have where it goes behind the ear, I think that's our little ear. And then with this one, I can go in. So if you're going in and out, it's fine. It's just I'm not going directly on the line. And you can see how it starts almost embossing, and it looks embossed, if you know what that is, where it's raised off the paper somewhat. And that is where it starts, like the painting's beginning. You're getting this kind of set up, and those black lines can really help in that manner. So for like in here, when the whole outside of the seahorse, I'm going to go on the outside of the line. And I hope that helps you on that journey. And so then I'm just going to go through the whole piece and get that all done, and I'll have it sped up a little bit, but you'll see how it goes. And if you need to put something on your hand to protect your piece, I just use a piece of tracing paper, So I'll just take that tracing paper and put it down, and then my hand is protecting, you know, it's protected. I'm not going to be smearing the work I have underneath. Remember, you're rotating that pencil, and this is the 2B of the Wolf's Carbon pencil. Okay, so I've brought in another piece of paper to, you know, do my little sharpening if I want on, you know, just so I'm not having to waste lead. It's just a great way to sharpen. I don't want to do that to my actual painting that I'm working on. So I've changed that. I don't normally do that. I just was demoing. So I've erased that. It just erases off with my eraser, and I have a really nice sharp tip now because I've sharpened it on the paper. Because this is sandpaper, I have tried this technique on a sandpaper, you know, like a 600 grade regular sandpaper from the hardware store. They're not pH neutral, and at least I don't think they are, but or acid free. But it was fun to play on. The other thing is you can only get it in these odd sizes, like 9 by 11. So that was a little bit disheartening. It's really hard to get that paper big, but it definitely is worth just getting the UART paper. Now I came across this technique when I was starting out, and I was just working with the transferred image. And when I was working with the transfer image, it just was really delicate. And so I came up with trying to work with this pencil, and I was thinking of it a lot like a Stabilo pencil. And Stabilo works too, but I find this is also water soluble, but the carbon pencil just has a little bit extra, and I just really love that. So for this spot right here, I know that's going to go dark, so I'm going to call that out, and that kind of gives you a visual of how I'm working a little bit. I'm just going to go like that and leave the rest. I might, well, do a light coat there and see how that's going to be darker than everything else. Just tap that off. Got really excited about the sea kelp. Okay, another little dark area. I'm going to have other colors obviously worked in there, but some of these little dark tension points I like to call out. Okay, so we have everything supported with our carbon pencil. This is what it looks like. I've filled in the eye and left the highlight there. I've remembered that this was a dark spot there and I filled that in. The rest I might go in with black, um, my black pastel pencil or my PanPastel. But I do like to call out some of the darker areas, and we'll go and do that a little bit more when I get in front of the easel. But for the most part, I just wanted to make sure I got those called out. So that's going to help us get a lot of depth in our kelp. And this is where we're at. So this is where we're going to be starting with on the easel. I hope that you will come and watch and join in on the 1 year celebration of my live streaming. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I will walk you through this whole piece. I'm going to go until it's done. So usually I live stream for 2 hours. So we're going to see, because this is pushing it for 2 hours. I would say a lot of times these pieces take me about 3, but I look forward to seeing you there. And thanks for joining me today. And I'm excited to celebrate with you all. All right, take care.